the birds and the number of birds falling off were really dictating our response. So we were reacting in real time. And luckily we had so many people weighing in, so many tern biologists and California Department of Fish and Wildlife biologists and different rescue organizations and people familiar, and we were all sort of collaborating on what the best options might be. So that's when, we really started talking about the floating platforms. What the chicks would essentially do is they'd fall off, and they knew that they needed to get back to the barge, and that's where all the birds were, so they would just swim in circles around the barge. When we put the haul outs on, we had them right up against the edge, and they had little ramps, so the birds would just swim around and they'd hit the ramp and they'd just haul out. I'm gonna try to get up on there. There we go. So we could observe exactly what was happening on those platforms, unlike, the barge that was higher. I think there were 6 haul outs on the barge that had more birds on it and 4 haul outs on the barge that had less birds on it. The platforms were a decent size, but they could fit like maybe 30 chicks on it. We would usually come out first thing in the morning and they would all already be full.
So we'd get like 30 to 40 terns in a day, and then once we put those haul outs out, it was like 80 terns coming in, and we're like, okay, that is significant. Like we're tired, but what else can we start to do? We thought of the idea of examining them out in the field, and if they didn't have injuries, just popping them back up onto the barges to continue to be cared for by their parents. Because we knew if they did fall again, they could get to the raft and they would be okay, and we would just have to check them again.
I think one of the most interesting parts of that response was really looking at how elegant terns behave and that sort of crushing behavior of the chicks.
They form like a little baby daycare, and all the parents are out feeding, and whatever chick's mouth is open, they shove some fish in. So they're not specific to their own chick, which I believe some tern species are.
We would watch the adults with a big old anchovy, and they'd fly into the platform and they'd go to one chick to try to feed it, and the chick would refuse. They'd go to the next chick, and they'd kind of offer it to multiple chicks until one finally took it. To sort of see that and know that that was what was happening, really gave us a lot of confidence in knowing that it was absolutely the right thing to do. Essentially, stabilization was just warming them back up, and then we were able to really make a strong assessment, what kind of body condition were they in. Most of them were in great body condition, so we weren't worried about that. We would check them over really quickly to see if they had any injuries. So if we had any concerns, those were the ones that went back to rehab.
We worked hard to get an emergency permit to put the color bands on these birds so they were easier to spot. We banded, almost 1,000.
We had more boats, ideally some days we had sometimes 2 boats, 3 boats that were out there. So we would have a runner boat, that would basically take all the birds back to the dock and to the parking lot where we had tents set up, and we had teams of people, there just banding all the chicks. And so we'd take the shipment that they were done with and we'd take them all back out to the boat. So it was just a big relay system for days on end.
We had known from previous tern experiences that releasing them back into the colony was successful, but you had to make sure you did that. You couldn't just release them straight into the wild on their own.
Returning them to either back to the colony that they came from, or releasing them where there were other adults, both Caspian and elegant terns. We knew that it was going to be successful. Those birds from the past incidents had survived and had gone on to return multiple years and were successfully breeding, and I think we had a lot of confidence from tern biologists as well.
We had a time limit in terms of how long we could get this process going, because the colony was going to fledge very soon.
And then, there was one day where we're like, okay, we're going to start taking the chicks that are all in care and putting them back on the barges. So we would take, 50 or 100 all at once and return them to the barges.
Generally, chicks are ready for release when they have their full flight feathers in and they're flying, but this was a unique circumstances. We didn't necessarily want to make sure that they were fully flighted first, because we wanted to make sure they were out with the colony. So when they were fully flighted, they were ready to go.
Overall, everybody felt that it was worth the risk, because the best chance that those birds have is to be, with their colony, with the adults that are going to teach them how to feed, teach them all the different feeding sites, and migrate with them. So when we went back out to survey those barges, when all the birds had left, we were really anticipating to find potentially a lot of dead chicks. And because we had banded them all and marked them all, we'd be able to know if they were birds, which birds. Did they come into care? Were they the ones that were returned directly to the barge or not? So we would know exactly who they were and what their history was. We were shocked to find when we surveyed that barge that there was very few dead chicks. So those chicks that had spent several weeks in care and then returned to the barge also successfully fledged. It's one thing to try something with a group of 5 or 10 birds. It's another thing to try it with hundreds. So to see it be successful on that scale, I think it really proved that was absolutely the best thing to do and the best thing for each one of those birds.